Good day and welcome to Sports Paradise. I'm Dub, short for Big Dub, and remember, if you missed the gym for a few days, that first day back has to be the most intense, the utmost, most intense. I guess today I should have went harder, but I did what I could. It should be the most intense. So today, we're going to talk about the night of NBA action. We're going to talk about 2 NHL games that went on last night, just to recap. We'll get into some Miami Open. Then we'll talk about some NFL news, some MLB news, and some football news. Okay, let's get into it. Last night, the Raptors played, and they lost their 11th straight. That's it for news, you'd think. Typical day in Raptors land these days, sadly. But no. One of their players who's relatively unknown, last name Porter. You might know on Denver Nuggets they have Michael Porter Jr. This is his brother. He's under investigation for betting, gambling. And if caught, he's going to be, as usual, like they all do, in major trouble. We've seen it happen in MLB, Pete Rose. We see it happen with Shane Pinto on the Ottawa Senators, suspended for half the season in the NHL. We've seen it happen in the NFL, where people have been suspended for the entire year. And now this guy Porter on the Raptors wasn't even not even really part of the team. He just comes in and is, allegedly betting, gambling. So the story is that some sports betting apps, they have props for most players, and surprisingly they have props for like a lower end player like Porter, and pretty much he's betting on himself to get under the prop bet. So for example, if his over under for points is 7.5, they're saying that he would bet on himself to score under and then get himself taken out of the game due to some sort of injury. And there are 2 games in specific where they're really looking at, because a player like Porter, he's not that well known. So if there's major cash outs for his sort of parlays and his sort of prop bets, it's at least a suspicions. And the league was notified of this suspicious behavior, and now he's under investigation. We don't know any proof. I don't know any proof. I just read the news, but usually when they crack down on these guys for betting, they usually get them, and they get them good. So I'm not gonna judge Porter yet. I mean, he's relatively unknown. He just came to the Raptors recently. Hasn't really made an impact. Maybe he's trying to, he's not happy with his NBA paycheck, so he's trying to get more money by gambling, which would be good if you weren't a professional basketball player. You should gamble if you're a regular person. But it's tough everywhere you go. Every sport, every commercial on, TSN, ESPN, all the sports channels, they promote betting, and this is what the world we live in now. So everything with sports is going to be tough to see what's real, but you gotta trust that athletes, referees, coaches, etc., that they're playing the game honestly. But if your team is on an 11 game, or I guess now it's 11 game losing streak, but if they're on like a 10 game any sort of losing streak, they're not doing well this season, and if you're just some guy who came in just to fill some gaps in the roster, and you want to bet on yourself to go under, it's not going to work out. It's not going to work out because they're going to catch you. They catch everyone, and let's see if he gets caught. They're going to do an investigation and see what happens. So save my hot takes on what should happen to him until proof comes out, because there could be a logical explanation for him But regardless of if he was, actually injured or not, or what, if he was actually betting on himself, that's, a big no-no. Ex-Raptor Fred VanVleet, you may know his catchphrase is like bet on yourself, trying to be an inspiration to everyone in the city, everyone in, every little kid in Chicago where he's from, and his mantra, bet on yourself, but don't actually gamble on yourself. If you know what I mean. But don't take it literally. Take it like figuratively. Bet on yourself, like you're a good player. You want to get a better contract for yourself. Hold out for a bit and get a better contract because your stuff. But don't actually open FanDuel, open DraftKings, or any of those apps and literally put money on yourself because you're gonna get caught, and it's not a good look when you do. Gambling, I don't want to say it should be outlawed, but there's got to be ways that it shouldn't affect sports that much. But that's the world we live in now. Everyone from top to bottom and every organization could be betting on sports, and that's illegal as far as major teams go, major leagues go. You make enough money as it is. Let the amateurs gamble. It's not fair. But hey, we'll see what happens. So besides that, last night in the NBA, there were some key results, some surprising outcomes. So number one seed in the Eastern Conference, Boston Celtics, lost to Atlanta Hawks. Jason Tatum, 37 points, but Atlanta had an all-around team game, so they played quite well. Atlanta was at home, so, Celtics lost by 2, but it's a game they should win. But I think the Celtics were on like a major winning streak, like maybe 9 game winning streak, so it's bound to lose. Bound to get a bit tired. It was like a one-man show yesterday with Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown tried, but could have made one more shot, could have made 2 more shots, would have won. But Boston, not really worried about anything for now. But the playoffs, they might have to be worried because depending on who they face in the first round, could be tough. Dante DiVincenzo from the Knicks, 11 3-pointers made in their win last night. Jalen Brunson scored 28, and I'm happy about that because both those guys are on my fantasy basketball teams currently in the playoffs. If you noticed, when I previously showed my teams in the past, like yesterday. So yeah, and in the fantasy playoffs for basketball, I built myself a good lead, and I'm feeling confident going into the rest of the week to championship. What else? Victor Wembanyama didn't play last night for the San Antonio Spurs, but they still beat the Phoenix Suns. It was a close game. The Suns lost by 2 points, but without Wembanyama especially, and they still lost. I love the Suns. I love KD and Devin Booker. Booker got 36 points last night. KD got 29 points, but it wasn't enough. I guess some days the Spurs just have a good team performance. Even without Wembanyama, they can still win. But Bradley Beal, the third of their supposed big three, only scored 9 points. That's the thing, though. Every time you have a big three, every time you have 3 players who are decent, it's a big three. The only true big threes I would say, like Rondo, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen, or was it like Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Rondo on Boston, and I don't know, Ray Allen was on like a Miami team. Big three in Miami. Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, LeBron James. But now every team is supposedly a big three. Like it's supposed to be KD, Harden, Kyrie Irving, big three. Now it's supposed to be KD, Booker, Bradley Beal. But Bradley Beal isn't a big three kind of player anymore. Like he could have been back in his Wizards days, but these days he's not good at all. maybe he has his off and on games, but he's not that effective, not that consistent. And 9 points last night really let the team down. Like, you can't win them all, but a team like the Suns with two MVP caliber players and a player like Bradley Beal shouldn't be having trouble facing the Spurs without their best player, you know. So, anyways, Denver, they continue to roll. First place in the Western Conference and not looking back. Murray didn't play last night, but Nikola Jokic had his usual MVP performance, and as of right now, he's like definitely the MVP of the league. Going, is that like back to back he's going for? So he should get it, and honestly, it'd be pretty impressive if the Nuggets go back to back in the NBA Finals, which they really could, because not all teams have a big man as dominant as Jokic, and Jamal Murray on the outside plus their role players, they could go far. I mean, who do I hope win the NBA Finals? I don't know. OKC would be cool, but it's not going to happen. Suns, yeah, but very unlikely. They don't have they have Nurkic, but he's not dominant. Maybe he could be, but it's too tough against Denver. But we'll see. The Western Conference playoffs are going to be a whole gauntlet. It's going to be like a pit of just destruction and juggernauts playing each other. It's gonna be fun. Looking forward to it. Should be around 3 weeks from now when it starts. So NBA action tonight. 4 fun games. They're all gonna be pretty important games. Miami's at home versus Golden State. It's gonna be a fun game to watch. Who knows who's gonna win that? If I was if I was gambling, which I don't know yet. I'm not gonna gamble on. I don't have money to waste. I really don't. But Miami should probably win that game, I would say. Bucks playing the Lakers. LeBron's not playing. I'm not sure if Giannis is playing. Maybe he should be playing. But the Bucks, they should win that game. The Lakers, everyone knows how they went to Boston that time without LeBron, without Anthony Davis, and they beat Boston. And like when Boston was at home. So you never know what happens tonight. But the Bucks are trying to prove that they're a good team, that they can be consistent, that they can do work once playoff time comes, which they very well could. So I don't see them losing tonight, especially at home. But anything can happen. But like I said, I doubt it. Pelicans are at home versus the Thunder. The Pelicans have had a very surprising season. The Thunder too, but the Pelicans, I guess because Zion Williamson has stayed healthy for the entire year so far, up to date, and he's been playing great. They're in a good position in the Western Conference. But like I said, they're like most teams, like Thunder even too, are quite young, not experienced. Pelicans quite young, not experienced. So once playoff time comes, it's gonna be a different story. But we'll see, because some young teams with no experience are probably gonna be playing each other too. So one of them has to move forward. But the Pelicans tonight at home versus OKC, that's a tough game to pick. But maybe I'll go with OKC. I'll go with OKC. And then the last game tonight is gonna be the Sacramento Kings versus the Dallas Mavericks. That's gonna be probably a very high scoring game, like very high scoring, like maybe like 130 to 140. You never know, because Mavericks, they have Gafford in center getting some block shots. He's on my fantasy team, but besides that, they don't really play defense. The Kings play probably even less defense because they don't have really a presence down the middle. So that should be a high scoring game. Hopefully Gafford does well. Hopefully Fox, Sabonis, Mr. Triple Double Sabonis, hopefully he does well. But like I said, that's just for fantasy reasons. But my fantasy team is already in a good position, so now it's just going to be like padding, like stat padding once they do well. But they gotta save it for the championship round for me. They gotta save it. I don't want them to go cold. So I wouldn't mind if they have regular games, but they gotta save their great games for next week. So maybe I'll pick the Mavs to win that game. I'll pick Luka, Kyrie to have some good games. Gafford, Mr. Efficient, get some block shots. Should do well. So it was a low-scoring night last night in the NHL world. Low scoring and only 2 games. It was one of those quiet nights. I guess a couple of teams who are very defensive oriented were playing, like Vegas. They're a very tough team to score a lot of goals against, and so are the Blues. And they played each other last night, and Vegas won 2-1 in overtime. The Kings, the Los Angeles Kings, they're a team who's also tough to go against. They have good defensive core, good grinders on the forwards, and a good goalie. And they beat Vancouver 3-2. So that was a good win for them, trying to stay in a playoff spot in the Pacific. So yeah, those were 2 important games for the playoffs. The Blues going into last night, I believe, were 3 points back of Vegas, and Vegas won that game in OT. So at least the Blues got a point, but Vegas is now 5 games ahead of them. Like I said, Vegas, like Blues, they can win games and lose games, but Vegas is just a good team. The Kings, that was a big win for them because they're just taking up the 3rd spot in the Pacific Division. Vegas is right behind them in that division, like in the wild card spot though. So if they don't keep winning, Vegas could overtake them and take the 3rd spot in the Pacific Division. So that was a good win for the Kings. The Blues, they have a good chance, I would say, if they go on like a minor, like a bit of a win streak. I think they have around 12 games, maybe 13 games to go. So it's going to be tough, but they could make it, but I don't think they will. I think Vegas is going to handle it. Kings, they're already ahead, so they can't really blow the lead. It'd be tough for them to do that. Blues still have a chance, like I said, but the Flames and the Minnesota Wild, they don't have that big of a chance. They're kind of going downhill. The Wild has had a disappointing year, to say the least. Their goaltending has been horrendous from the start, and the Calgary Flames, they traded for like great players, but they haven't lived up to any sort of expectations since then. No goaltending, not really any defense. I guess they were sellers. They traded Noah Hannafin at the deadline to the Vegas Golden Knights, so that's what they should expect. Tonight, the Leafs are in action. They're playing the New Jersey Devils. Marner, I believe, is still going to be out, sadly. Who's going to be trying to get Matthews his 60th goal, 65 goals, his 70 goals without Marner, Nylander going to be playing, doing his thing as usual. Matthews probably get a goal tonight because, he always has to score. But he's 8 more goals behind, 8 more goals to get 66, 7 more goals to get 65, tying Redskins' record. We'll see. Maybe tonight he'll get a hat trick. That'd be cool. As long as the Leafs win. New Jersey has been doing quite well. They have like Jake Allen playing goal tonight, so he should do well. It might be a low scoring game, maybe like 3-2, maybe like 3-1. We'll see how it goes. But honestly, the Devils might win that game because the Devils trying to get into the playoffs, trying to hold their spot in the playoffs, and they have some good offensive players, and they have like a better defensive core, and they have better goaltending. Like Joseph Wall, I believe, is starting today, and he's been a bit shaky since coming back. And New Jersey they have, I don't know, I wouldn't be surprised if the Devils won this game, but hopefully the Leafs can pull it out. Hopefully the Leafs can win, and hopefully Matthews, doesn't get a goal. But if he But honestly, like I said, he's on my fantasy team, and I kind of need him to score a goal. Oh man, it's tough. It's a tough position to be in. Ay ay ay, man. Ovi, like he's just my favorite player. He's just my favorite player, and the Caps are playing today against Detroit. That is a major game for them because they're ahead of Detroit. They're ahead of Detroit right now in the playoffs, and just by 1 point, I believe. So Obi is going to try to continue his hot streak. He was the first star of the week last week, and he's going to try to keep on scoring goals, bring his total to catch Wayne Gretzky down, trying to get to 40 by the end of the season, which he could, because he's the greatest goal scorer of all time. The greatest of all time. So we'll see. I believe the Caps could win this game, but it's tough because they just have to keep on winning. There's a lot of pressure, but they're used to it. But there's a lot of young players on their team who aren't quite used to it, but they got to come out flying, use their energy. Come on, Detroit, get past Detroit. They don't have a good team as the Caps. Come on, Caps, let's go. So yesterday there was some more Miami Open action. It's getting down to the nitty gritty, to the final 16 for the men's, the quarterfinals for the women's. So what happened? Yesterday, American Ben Shelton, he lost. He's been making it by his standards, I guess, relatively far in tournaments so far this year, but like he lost to a lower seed, Italian Musetti, who's I think like ranked 23rd, and Shelton is ranked 15th. So he's won a few matches, but then when it comes to like the quarterfinals, playing like other players who are near him in the rankings, he's been losing. Shelton, he kind of broke out last season. Everyone saw his major run in the U.S. Open, and that was very impressive, of course. But he's mostly a power player. His serve is mad, like it's like 143 miles per hour, and not even kilometers, but he's got to be more precise. He's got to be more tactical, not just use power, but like look at how Alcaraz plays. I mean, Alcaraz is a different story, of course. Like Medvedev, like Zverev, like Djokovic, different stories. But if Ben Shelton could get his game to be more tactical, more precise, more surgical, all those cool adjectives, along with his major serve, watch out for him. Christopher Eubanks, he's out. He lost yesterday to Zverev. That was expected. Zverev is number 4 in the world. A great player to watch play tennis. Eubanks took him to a tie break in the first set and lost the tie break, and then Zverev handled him in the second set, won in straight sets. Eubanks, he won a few matches this tournament, but we'll see how he does as the season gets further along. And then Gael Monfils, he was trying his best, but Carlos Alcaraz is just too good. He's just a great player. Gael Monfils, he got off to a good start. He did, but then, if you were watching, he kind of stepped on planted his foot in an awkward position, and his ankle didn't roll, but it just caused him some pain. And since that moment in the game, in the match, it was hard to recover from that. And Alcaraz, watching him play, it's like he has like senses galore, like octopus, like 8 arms to get every single ball. No matter what, he just gets to it. He just gets to the ball, and Alcaraz is amazing. He's a great tennis player. So we'll see how far Alcaraz can go. He's playing tonight. Who else is playing tonight? The round of 16 for the men start today, and Daniil Medvedev is playing. Casper Ruud is playing. Yannick Sinner is playing. It's going to be a solid matchup of 2 big guys, Hurkacz versus Dimitrov. That should be a heavy-hitting match. And then late night or like 7:30 Eastern time, Alcaraz is going to be playing Musetti. And I'm looking forward to watching these games, these matches. On the women's side of the Miami Open, there were a few upsets. Coco Gauff, she's ranked third in the world. And she lost to Caroline Garcia, who's ranked 30th. Garcia is a great player. She has some big wins, but Coco Gauff is supposed to be, up and coming. But it's tough. Garcia had everything going for her yesterday, and she managed to upset Coco. So that was a great win for the French women. On another upset, number 1 in the world, Swiatek surprisingly lost to Alexandrova. That's why I say it's tough to win Indian Wells and Miami Open back to back, because Alcaraz is still in, but Swiatek, she won Indian Wells, and now she's out of Miami before even the quarterfinals was upset by Alexandrova. And but Americans won. Rybakina, she won. So American, like Pegula, she won. Rybakina won, and Azarenka won, and now they're all in the quarterfinals. Today there's 2 quarterfinals matchups going on. Azarenka is facing Putintseva. Azarenka just played yesterday, so she might be a bit exhausted, who knows, but she's a professional. And Sakari, Indian Wells finalist Sakari, is facing number 4 in the world, Elena Rybakina, and that should be another good matchup. Rybakina is trying to, she didn't play in Australia, and she didn't play in Indian Wells, and now she's trying to make her name this season and go far in Miami before the clay courts start to happen. Before Roland Garros starts. Let's see how Rybakina does. Sakari might be another player who is a bit exhausted from the Indian Wells journey, and Rybakina's feeling pretty fresh, so I wouldn't be surprised if Rybakina handles Sakari rather easily. So some NFL news to talk about. No major signings, no major team news, no major trades, but they have a couple of new rules that they put in place yesterday that the owners were in agreement for. One of them is I guess they're both a bit controversial, or either you're for or against these rules. Let's talk about them. So the first rule change is the hip drop tackle. That's what it's called, and they changed that to if a defensive player uses that form of tackling against an offensive player, or I guess even if an offensive player, if there's a turnover and the offensive player is chasing the defensive player down and hip drop tackles them, it's going to be a 15-yard penalty, and it could be cause for a suspension. Here's what it looks like. The hip drop tackle. As you can see, this Niners player is grabbing this Cowboys player by the waist, and you can see a bit of his leg is bent up. He's about to be curled up in an awkward position. So the league is trying to avoid that happening. Here's an example of what probably wouldn't be considered a hip drop tackle.
6 different receivers, and this time
you all remember this play. Buda Baker being chased down by DK Metcalf, and look at this tackle here around the hips and just dragged him down. I'm not too. If you look at the replay,
can he chase him down?
That could be a dangerous tackle too. Look at his legs, and if he was a different direction, it could have been a terrible play. But luckily he was fine. Buda Baker wasn't injured, and it's an example of what I was saying, how an offensive player, DK Metcalf, could be chasing down a defensive player. That could happen, but that could have been an awkward tackle, and it seemed like they're trying to avoid things like that happening. So it just seems like the NFL is being they're trying to be more safe for defense for offensive players. They want to get more offense. They don't want star offensive players to be out for entire seasons. You know, taking revenue away from the league. They want to get the offensive players, like more young players, more young fans to be involved in the NFL, especially with betting. They always want to bet on people going over, and it seems like defensive players are going to have a tough time deciding what a tackle is. Like most sacks you see on quarterbacks are that sort of way. Like no matter what, if you drag a quarterback down, it's gonna be by the hip and like thrown down. If you hit him too hard, push him, he's gonna be roughing the passer. So it's tough. You know, everyone loves offense, but you're just making it not fair for defense. And defensive players gotta earn their money too, and they're gonna be on the field looking like clowns if every tackle they do they get a flag and then they stop tackling, let the offensive players just run across them, run by them. And I guess that's like every team has offense, but certain teams have better offense than other teams, and certain teams have better defense than other teams. So it's not. I wouldn't say that's really a. In football, it's a very violent sport. People have been playing football for ages now. There's been 56 Super Bowls, and that's like 56 plus years of NFL of people being violent. I understand trying to ban concussions, trying to prevent concussions, but tackling is like part of the game, and if you're unlucky enough to get injured by tackling, that's part of the game. It's the risk that they take, but I also understand that they're trying to get, they're trying to make offense, because there could be a risk of injury, which, like I said, it's a risk that they're taking, but the NFL wouldn't want their star players getting hurt, getting knee injuries, get these ugly injuries that no one really wants to see. But that's football, I feel like. Anyways, in my opinion, they're just trying to get more offense, trying to protect the offensive players, trying to have games be like 40-40, going into the OT, etc., things like that. Because like I said, like every sack pretty much on a quarterback is like a hip tackle, or it's going to be like a major push down like that, and it's going to be roughing the passer no matter what. Like maybe like running backs and wide receivers are going to have less protection, but I feel like any touch on the quarterback is going to be penalized. Flag, just like that. We'll see how it goes this season. It's going to be a preseason to test it out, and we'll see what happens in the regular season. But it's going to be, I'm sure it's going to have a lot of controversy as the year goes by. Another rule the NFL put in place are new kickoff procedures. So everyone knows how the kickoffs in the NFL usually goes. The kicking team kicks it, and the ball usually goes to the end zone. They moved it up from 20-yard line to 30-yard line, so they'll get more touchbacks and less people trying to risk their bodies, risk their heads to return it, and that's good for preventing concussions. Now they changed the rule. They changed pretty much the entire thing, the entire lineup, the entire rules. It's going to take a lot more getting used to. So the kicker is going to be on his 35-yard line, same as it is currently. But the kicking team's players are going to be up to the receiving team's 40-yard line. The receiving team is then going to be in what's called a setup zone, which is going to be from their 30 to 35-yard line. And then the receiving team's receivers, there can be two of them in the landing zone, which is going to be from their goal line to the 20-yard line. So here's an example of how it's going to be. As you can see, the player on there, well, I guess it's on the 30-yard line here, but for NFL, it's going to be on the 35-yard line up here. This is like an XFL game. So he's going to kick it. Their kicking team is on their 35-yard line. The receiving team is on their 30-yard line. The ball's in the air. The receiver, there can be two of them. It's going to be either between the 20-yard line and the end zone. Catches it, and these two teams, the kicking team's players and the receiving team's players cannot move until the receiver catches the ball. Voila. This is going to be in the NFL next year, and it seems like the NFL is just taking away tradition. Of course, it's to make the game safer, but it's like taking away tradition, which is surprising because I feel like most owners are like conservatives. But I guess they wouldn't vote for these rule changes if it didn't make them money. So hey, we'll see how it works. It could be some returns, some touchdown returns for kickoff touchdown returns, but we'll see what happens once the season begins. So another rule change in the NFL is that teams will get a third challenge if they get their first challenge right. So before, they'd have to get both challenges right to get a third one, but now if they get only one right, there's going to be an extra challenge given to them if they get their first one right. And yeah, that's like not going to affect things that much. I guess coaches want that to happen. That rule was put in by the Detroit Lions. That rule was proposed by the Detroit Lions. So we'll see. It shouldn't have a major impact on games. Well, it could, because they're going to have up to 3 challenges potentially that could be quite important in the fourth quarter of games, late in games. So that's a good rule. A lot of teams now are challenging plays, could challenge plays. So it's good to have that option. It's good that replay is getting advanced where they can have that option to challenge plays. So some minor MLB news, which is kind of major MLB news. I'm sure by now you've heard that Ohtani and his interpreter have got into a conflict because Ohtani's interpreter transferred $4.5 million to a bookie. And there's a lot of confusion going on around there because is it like Ohtani's betting on games and the interpreter took the fall? Or was it the interpreter just a snake and is just like stealing money from Ohtani? There's a lot of things, a lot of speculation that I have no idea what's going on. But Ohtani yesterday spoke through interpreter for the first time, and he said he was shocked to hear about what happened. Of course, he would say that no one knows the truth, but personally, I would believe that Ohtani has respect for the game. And being like a unicorn player like he is, I don't think he would just come into the league and start doing this shady business. But you never know. But I don't want to believe that Ohtani would be gambling. And if he is gambling, I mean, they're going to investigate it. But then even he will face the punishments of gambling. But which no one wants to see. No one wants to see that, and he's a generational player, like once every 100 years player, and I don't think he would just try to ruin his career like that and get caught, because as we mentioned before, you will get caught for gambling in any sport. No matter who you are, you will get caught. So I don't think Ohtani would do a thing like that. But hey, everywhere you go, I don't think this and that guy would be doing PEDs. I don't think he'd be doing this and all that, but then it turns out he does, and then started apologizing for it, apology tour. But Ohtani, I think he has class. I think I don't know. I like him. I have faith that he respects the game of baseball, and I don't think he would be doing things like that. But maybe that'll be the end of it, or maybe there'll be some more stories coming out as the season gets along. But that could turn out to be a major distraction for the Dodgers, if anything. But hopefully they just wash it up quick time. The season starts in 2 days, and Jordan Montgomery is still not signed. That's kind of concerning for myself because I drafted him in a couple of my fantasy baseball leagues and he's still not signed. Who knows where he'll go? Yankees, like Red Sox, like who knows where he'll go? Cubs, the Giants, but he's gonna sign already. You want to play baseball, just play baseball. But he is a good pitcher, and hopefully teams aren't trying to be cheap on him because he won a World Series last year. He's a good pitcher. He's consistent. He can eat up innings. So just get a good deal in place and join the season. Just join the season. I feel like any minute now you could hear news that Jordan Montgomery signed somewhere, like maybe the Yankees. Like they're gonna be without Garrett Cole for like 2 months maybe. So they gotta have someone to fill out that spot. But do they have the money to spend? The Yankees are the Yankees. They're like the most valuable franchise in sports, not just baseball. They have the money, and they need a guy like Montgomery. It's not like I'm a big fan of Montgomery, but like I said, he's on my fantasy teams, and he's a good pitcher. So let's see how it goes. Maybe tomorrow we'll have some news on him on MLB Eve. Football has been away for a couple of weeks now, unless you watch international friendly games. I haven't really been watching a few, but today there's going to be some fun games on. Germany is going to be facing the Netherlands. England is going to be facing Belgium, and both those games are going to be at 3:45 p.m. Eastern time. And there's obviously a few other games going on, a few other international games going on. And then at 4 o'clock, there's going to be Spain versus Brazil. And that's going to be an interesting game to watch because everyone knows how Vinny Jr. suffers in Spain. Everyone in Spain who goes to football games at least terrorizes him with racist talk, with racist chants, just trying to go above and beyond to get him off his game and be disrespectful. And it's like mostly everywhere he goes in Spain, except for maybe Real Madrid. But then, like Real Madrid is, they're like a classy world team they're trying to be. But Spain in general, they're not that classy. Seems like, obviously, you don't want to say the entire country is racist, but it seems like in Spain they're quite lax with their laws against harassing people who are of a different culture, especially people who are black. Vinny Jr. today, playing for Brazil, is going to be the captain of the game, and this game was organized specifically as an anti-racism game, and it's never going to go away no matter what, but you at least have to try and show that you condemn it, and you're not going to be standing around while people are suffering in your country, while he brings so much like passion to your country. He brings a lot of fans, a lot of different cultures. They got to come together and try to enjoy what he does instead of bringing him down with racist chants. And football is very passionate, but even besides football, Spain has not a good reputation for treating people well who are not Spanish. But this is not a sports paradise. It's just a sports TV show, but sometimes you have to give some opinions about things that aren't sports related, and it's important to acknowledge what players who are black go through, because they make up a lot of people in sports, except for hockey. and like golf. But even in golf, like Tiger Woods, he's relatively black, and of course he would qualify as being black, and he's the best player, So it's important to to show respect. You can have differences, but try to come together for some things, and at least try to roast people in ways that aren't too personal, because you want to go out and enjoy your time and not have to suffer. So the Premier League is back this weekend. The Chelsea boys are going to be back playing Burnley. They're at Stamford Bridge. That should be, a win for them. But a lot of their players were playing for England or playing for the national teams. Caicedo was playing for Ecuador, etc. But, they should win that game against Burnley, hopefully. Stamford Bridge, they haven't lost a game recently at Stamford Bridge. And I'll give my predictions for that once we see who's going to be back for the lineup and for Chelsea. I'll talk about it on Friday. And I'll give my predictions too for the title race teams. They're playing on Sunday, 31st of March. And Liverpool is back playing Brighton. And Man City is facing Arsenal. Man City's home. Liverpool's home. That's going to be two great games to watch, especially Man City versus Arsenal. We're going to see what Arsenal is really made of. They're in the Champions League quarterfinals or semi. They're in the Champions League quarterfinals, and so is Man City. So we'll see how that game goes. Arsenal seems, I don't know. Man City is good in every competition. They just have players who can play. Like if they don't play in the Premier League games, they can come off the bench and perform. And players who will start Premier League games, they'll be on the bench for Champions League games, for example, and then those players who are on the bench would start the game and perform well. Man City is, as you know, a juggernaut. They're the best team in football in all countries, most likely. But we'll see if what happens when Mbappe goes to Real Madrid next year. And I swear, if Mbappe goes to Real Madrid next year, and it's Champions League, and it's Man City versus Real Madrid in the quarterfinals, I'm like, man, what are you doing? What are you doing? They got to face in the Champions League finals, So that'll be some good talk for Friday, and as the weekend gets going and Monday starts. So tomorrow is MLB Opening Day Eve, Wednesday, and I know you've all been waiting for my predictions, my awards predictions, whatever. It's gonna be a fun episode. We're gonna recap Indian Wells. We're gonna recap NHL Leafs action, Caps action, recap some games I said Indian Wells, but we're gonna recap the Miami Open and NBA, NHL, and then talk about the MLB to wrap it up. It's going to be a majority of the episode though. So, see you then. As usual, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Anything you want to say that's constructive and fun and will help the show get better. Have a great day.